Yeah, I feel well. We got the coaching staff, right? So that was a big deal the last 3 weeks, month to put the coaching staff together, and got to see about 18 of our guys in Sarasota a couple weeks ago. That was a great experience, and anytime you can kind of see the guy hit and throw and whatever, and it's not on video, that was a really nice it was a nice weekend. Get to see the guys last night, putting faces to the video that I've been watching. So yeah, it's been a real get to know process, but I think it's been accelerated by the Sarasota weekend as well as the Fan Fest, meeting everybody here.
A lot of the guys have been saying how it seems that you have an open door. You want to have a relationship with every single player. For you, how important is that when you have this rebuilding team and just getting to know them?
Yeah, I think it's the most important. Most important thing for me is to get to know them as people first, and the way you make impact, the way you coach impactfully is by having a relationship there first. And if there's no relationship, then it's a lot harder. So I think to really dive into them early, try to call as many guys as I could, get down to Sarasota, meeting with some of the players. That was really important. So then when we jump in second week of February, then it's we can get the ball rolling on it and not have so much newness.
Brandon, the bench coach position, it wasn't officially announced that one person is specifically that. How do you see that evolving?
Obviously Tim's our Major League Field Cornet, that's his title. And I've known Tim for years, and I think it's pretty well reported that I'm going to rely on him heavily from a game management standpoint, a game planning standpoint. I feel great about the experience in the pitching coach and hitting coach positions in Doug and Don. Don's managed before. Doug's been been a veteran pitching coach, playing 15 years. So I think the way our dynamic is going to be in the dugout is going to be evolving a little bit. But I think that I'm going to rely on heavily on those three guys for game planning and game decisions.
Brandon, how much of the team in your mind, if you had to pick a 25-man roster now, how much, but I mean, how much, are you familiar enough with the team? Are you, familiar enough to know basically in your mind a lot of the guys who are going to be starting?
I'm familiar from video, so that how much does that really play into, I know their stats and I know where guys played last year, and I've watched guys on video, and I know I've seen some play in the past, but I was in the National League Central and we didn't play interleague this last year, so I don't know the players that well. So that's what the next 2 months is going to be of getting to know them as well as we can, and making really good decisions with Mike, and understanding that this is a development deal, and we're going to put guys in the positions to have success, and so I feel good about that. But I think right now, if you asked me to pick 25, I would be lying to you if I said that I had it nailed down. I think that's what the next 2 months is for.
Is that a good thing for the players to know that you're not coming in and making decisions on them based on a couple phone calls and a little video, that spring training is going to matter for them to, really make an impression? Yeah,
I mean, competing matters to me. Watching them compete and watching how they prepare. Yeah, I mean, it's a clean slate with me. I came from a pretty good spot where we had, when in spring training, maybe there was a spot or two open when camp started. This is different. This is more of how it was in 12 and 13 and 14 there, where, there's a lot of young, interesting guys that we can't wait to start developing, and whether they're ready to make the big league team or not, I can't tell you right now. But I think that's a great situation for a lot of guys, and there's obviously innings on the mound, and there's ABs to be had, and to have the opportunity to win a job, I think is, as a player, I think that's what you want.
Brandon, talking to the fans today, did you get the impression that they're on board with this be patient type of thing and the rebuild that's going on with this franchise?
Yeah, I think I've been overwhelmed with positive comments, and people have been really nice. And I think that I just wanted to dive into us being positive and feel good about the direction our team's going, and I feel like that's kind of been the message, and I feel like that's kind of been the feeling. I know our players are unbelievably energized. You get that sense on the phone, where there's a sense of we want to be really good, and it's going to be, whatever that timeline is, I can't tell you, but I think that we're in the right. We've taken really good steps so far, and there's a good feel. I want to feel like there's a good feel from the fans, but I know there's a good feel in our clubhouse.
Brandon, are you a believer that the player development can continue and end at the major league level? And since you're going to have so many young players, what's important about that nurturing process, leading them along as the ups and downs go on?
Well, I think it's not just us. I mean, the players are getting younger in the big leagues, and there's so much development that's still happening. Good team, championship level teams are still developing players in the big leagues. So the way the game is now, there's a lot of coaching that happens in the major leagues, and so it's we might have a few more than other places, but that's great. I mean, it's going to be workmanlike. It's going to be positive. It's going to be we're going to have some adversity, but that's part of development also. Back to kind of what you're saying, I think that there's so much development that's still happening in the big leagues in most places, so I don't think it's rare that's happening here.
Brandon, what interested you about both Brocail and Long? What do they bring to the table, and why did you want to go with those guys?
Well, I'll start with Don. So Don, I was in the Central against him for the last 4, so we played 19 times, and you kind of get a relationship with guys that are in your division, and obviously I really respected their offense. The Reds' offense was you had to bring it on a nightly basis, and it was a relentless style, especially their middle of the order. And so I liked Don a lot, just from our run-ins throughout the years. And then, I got the job. He was heavily recommended by a lot of people I really trust. And I got on the phone with him, and I really liked our conversation. And you definitely dig and get some background done, and Don checked all the boxes for me, and I'm really fortunate to have him. With Doug, similar. A lot of people that have worked with him are close friends of mine, and there was a lot of positive things said about Doug. I know that Mike and Siga had a relationship with him already with the Houston days also, so that was positive. And as him as well, with all the experience. And just their way that they have, there are development guys that have great way with players. They were easy fits.
Brandon, getting back to the bench coach thing, just for a second, you were a bench coach 4 different times. Yeah. You obviously know how important that role is. Coming from that experience, why not just? I mean, if Cossins' job is going to be similar, why not give him the title, knowing that it's going to kind of spark some questions?
Because I'm not really concerned about titles, to be honest with you. I'm concerned about getting the guys getting a really good coaching staff. I think that I didn't want to just label Tim as any certain thing. Tim's going to be doing all sorts of things as long as being a huge part of our catching and game planning. So I don't, the title to me didn't matter. But yeah, I think that the people that you have around you as a manager is really, really important. And I feel like I've surrounded myself with awesome people, and so I feel good about that.
Brandon, how much video have you watched on Chris Davis, and what have you seen?
Yeah, I've watched quite a bit. I've watched quite a bit of his at-bats. Talked a lot to Don about him. I'm not going to go into detail about adjustments that I think we needed to make. For me, I just wanted to get to know Chris.
Yeah.
So talked to him on the phone a couple times. Saw him last night, saw him today. I think that's we're off to a great start. I think that I know he's heard about me from friends in the game, and I think that he's going to know that we're going to be behind him 100%. And I want to give him every opportunity to have the years that he has had in the past. And people have asked me about bounce back. I think bounce back is real. I think you don't have the years he had by chance. There's obviously something in there, something to tap into, and I know that he's hungry and ready to start the year.
Could you discern what happened to him from the great years he had to the last couple?
I think there's all sorts of things why guys go into tough moments. I think there's all different kinds of ways. I don't know his personal. I haven't dug in that deep, to be honest with you. But whether it's confidence or whatever it may be, I think that there's all sorts of reasons why players go through tough times, and I think that's not abnormal. That guys have tough years. But we're obviously looking forward to Chris bouncing back and having a good year this year.
You now have your staff and you're working together. When you're having these meetings and thinking about yourself as a manager, have you learned anything new about yourself, whether it's the manager you will be or want to be during this period?
Yeah, I've always watched this kind of stuff from the TV, and I've been around really good guys. I didn't know how I was going to handle it. I knew I was going to be having to handle it someday. But yeah, you kind of learn that. I've learned, you learn more about yourself, to be honest with you, because you're talking so much, right? So you're talking so much that instead of just thinking about ideas and thinking about how I would handle it, now I'm handling it. So I just feel like the most I've learned is about actually who I am and kind of what I believe in and who I want to surround myself with.
Brandon, one last question on structure of spring training. Because you have this very, very young team, does that mean it's going to have an additional emphasis on instruction throughout the spring, or is every spring handled the same way?
No, I think you handle springs differently. In Chicago, we played so deep into the year for a few years that we were very, very patient, and we had kind of more of a veteran team that we believed in rest, and we felt our guys needed some days off and recoup time from playing almost into November every year. But in this situation, it's a little different. This is more of, they didn't play in the postseason. They had a longer off season. We're going to be, I know our shortcomings from last year. We're going to dive into really the fundamentals. I believe in simple. I believe in being the best base running team in the league. I believe in catching the baseball. So a lot of the defense base running component, that's something that we're going to really focus on.